They called her a murderer. Her own family traded her like livestock to a stranger 200 miles west, hoping the wilderness would finish what grief started. But Royce Barrett wasn't the fool they thought he was, and Clementine Ross wasn't the broken woman they'd tried to erase. What started as punishment became the greatest battle either of them would ever fight, not against each other, but for each other. Before you hear how it ends, subscribe to this channel, follow this story to the very end, and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this truth has traveled. The wagon wheels stopped at 4:30. Royce heard them first, wood grinding against dirt, someone coming whether he wanted them or not. He'd been standing on his porch for 3 hours, letter crumpled in his back pocket, jaw so tight his teeth ached. That letter had arrived 6 weeks ago. His cousin Edward, a man he hadn't spoken to in 5 years, suddenly interested in family reconciliation. Take the widow off our hands. She's been nothing but trouble since Robert died. 200 acres of prime timber land deeded free and clear. Fair trade, cousin. What have you got to lose? What Royce wanted to write back. My peace. My right to be left alone. What he actually wrote. Send her. 200 acres was 200 acres. A man alone in Montana didn't refuse land. If the woman couldn't handle the work, she'd leave. Simple. Except nothing about the woman stepping down from that wagon looked simple. Tall, dark hair pulled back hard enough to hurt, gray dress-worn boots, single canvas bag gripped like it held her whole life. Maybe it did, but her eyes stopped him cold. Green, sharp, unafraid. She looked straight at him, didn't drop her gaze, didn't soften into anything apologetic or hopeful. She measured him the same way he measured her, and she wasn't impressed. The driver cleared his throat. Mr. Barrett, Mrs. Clementine Ross. Land papers are with the bank in town. Mr. Edward Ross sends his regards. That all? Yes, sir. Then go. The driver was gone before Clementine turned around. 20 feet apart, staring. I don't know what they told you about this place, Royce said. They told me you needed a housekeeper. Her voice was lower than expected. Steady. They told me you were decent and would leave me alone. They told me if I refused, I'd never see another cent of Robert's money. Robert. My husband. He's dead. Yes. Royce waited for more. Nothing came. They said you killed him. He watched for the flinch, the denial, the anger. She gave him nothing. They said a lot of things. She tilted her head. Do you believe them? Don't know you well enough to believe anything. Fair enough. She looked past him at the house square structure, sagging porch, dirty windows. That where I'm staying. Room off the kitchen. Small. Clean. You'll cook clean laundry. I'm in the fields dawn to dark. Don't expect conversation. Don't expect company. I expect work. That's all? That's all. She nodded once. Then we understand each other. She walked past him, boots soft against dirt, and Royce felt something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. This widow his family shipped west like damaged goods didn't move like someone beaten down. She moved like someone who'd made a decision and meant to see it through. He followed her inside. 2 rooms downstairs. Kitchen and living space combined. Small room to the side, narrow bed, single window. Upstairs was his. She didn't ask. Pantry there? Royce pointed. Well out back. Wood stacked south side. Bring it in before rain. Need supplies, make a list. I go to town once a month. When's next trip? 3 weeks. I'll manage. He looked at her long and hard. She forced herself not to look away. Men like him respected strength, not sweetness. She had no sweetness left anyway. Barn if you need anything, he said. I won't. His mouth almost smiled. No, don't suppose you will. He left. Clementine sat on the bed beside her bag and let herself breathe for the first time in 6 weeks. hands shaking. She pressed them flat against her thighs, counted to 10, 20, 30, made it, here, alive, never going back. Three days of silence. Clementine woke before dawn, stoked fire, made coffee, left a cup for Royce before he came down. Never saw him drink it. By the time she swept and started, breakfast cup was empty and he was gone. Simple meals, beans, bacon, bread when there was flour. His plate covered on the table. Hers eaten standing by the window watching him work in the fields. Steady, methodical. Man who'd been alone and preferred it. She understood. She preferred it too. Fourth morning she baked bread. Not practical. Only 2 of them. Flour limited. But she needed to do something with her hands. Something that felt like living instead of surviving. Mixed dough. Kneaded until arms ached. Set it to rise near the stove. Royce came in that evening. Smell hit him at the door. He stopped. "What's that?" "Bread." "I can see that." Moved closer, frowning. "Didn't tell you to bake." "Didn't tell me not to." Stared at her. She stared back. "My flour." "Your house. Your flour. Your land, I know." She set the loaf on the table between them. "But I'm not a prisoner. Won't live like one." Something shifted in his face. Surprise. Maybe respect beginning. "Fair enough." Cut a slice, ate standing, left without another word. Next morning, small sack of flour on the counter that hadn't been there before. She started outside. Old vegetable plot behind the house. Overgrown, forgotten. Clementine spent afternoons pulling weeds, turning soil. Hands blistered, then calloused. Back ached. Didn't care. Work felt honest. Honesty was something she'd been starved for. 6th day, Royce noticed. "Don't have to do that." Appeared beside the fence hat, pushed back, sweat on brow. "I know. That ground hasn't been worked in 3 years, mostly clay and rock." "I know. Why waste your time?" She straightened hand against lower back. "Because if I don't build something, I'll disappear." Silence. Then quieter, less guarded. "My brother used to say something like that." "Used to?" "He's dead." Clementine nodded slow. "So's my husband." "Yeah, heard that." "What else did you hear?" Eyes met hers. "That you helped him fall." Words hung like smoke. "Do you believe it?" "Don't know what I believe, but I know what it's like to watch someone die and have people blame you after." She studied him, rough-closed man who'd taken her for land and money, now standing in dirt, talking about death and blame. "Your brother. How'd he die?" "Hanged. For stealing a horse he didn't steal. Couldn't prove innocence. Couldn't save him. Couldn't do a damn thing except watch." "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't fix anything." "No, it doesn't." 2 people carrying ghosts they couldn't bury. First time since arriving, Clementine thought maybe this place wasn't punishment after all. Days passed faster after that. She worked the garden. He brought tools without asking. A better spade or rake with all its teeth seeds and paper packets, he said. Came from town, but she knew he'd saved from somewhere. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. 7th day, she found fence posts stacked by the plot. "For when things start growing," he said, passing by with an axe over his shoulder. "Keep the deer out." "Thank you." He grunted. Kept walking. 8th day, she made stew. Real stew with carrots and potatoes she'd found in the root cellar. Left his bowl on the table like always. He came in, sat down, ate in silence. Then, "Good." 1 word. But it mattered. 9th day, rain came soft in the afternoon. She stood in the doorway watching it, thinking about Missouri, about Robert, about the house she'd lost. "You miss it?" Royce's voice behind her. "No." Not even a little. There's nothing there worth missing. She turned. What about you miss your old place? Every day. Then why'd you leave? He was quiet a long time. Because staying would have killed me. Not fast, slow. The kind of dying where you wake up one morning and realize you stopped being a person years ago. She understood that too well. That why you said yes to me, she asked. Because you were dying slow. Said yes because of the land. Just the land. He met her eyes. Mostly. And now? Now I'm thinking maybe I said yes because God knew I needed someone who'd understand why I left everything behind. Thunder rumbled distant. Rain picked up. And between them something unnamed settled into place. 10th day brought the first real test. Clementine was hauling water when she saw the rider. Too far to see his face, but close enough to know stranger coming fast, looking for something. She dropped the buckets and ran for the barn. Royce! He was shoeing a horse, looked up sharp. What? Rider, coming in hard. He straightened, reading her face. Someone you know? Can't tell yet. Get inside. Lock the door. I'm not hiding. Wasn't asking. He grabbed the rifle leaning against the stall. Inside, now. She wanted to argue, wanted to stand her ground, but the look in his eyes stopped her. Not anger, fear, for her. She went, watched from the kitchen window as the rider pulled up. Young man, dusty coat, official-looking bag across his saddle. Not family. Not Thomas Ross. Courier. She watched Royce take an envelope, watched him read whatever was inside, watched his whole body go rigid. The courier left. Royce stood there, paper in hand, staring at nothing. Clementine unlocked the door, stepped out. What is it? He didn't look at her. Letter from the sheriff in Missouri. Her stomach dropped. Saying what? Saying Robert's brothers filed a formal complaint. Saying there's witnesses now, people who heard you threaten him. Saying they want you brought back for questioning. He finally looked up. Saying they're sending a marshal within the week. The ground tilted under her feet. I never threatened him. I believe you. They're lying. I know. Royce, I know. He crossed to her, gripped her shoulders hard enough to ground her. Listen to me. We have maybe 5 days, maybe 6. We need proof, real proof, something that clears you or they'll take you and I'll never see you again. What kind of proof? I don't know yet. His jaw worked. But we'll find it. How can you be so sure? Because I already let one person I cared about die because I couldn't prove the truth. His eyes burned into hers. I won't do it again. 11th day they made a plan. Royce knew a lawyer in town. Man who owed him a favor from years back. They'd ride in tomorrow, get copies of every document related to Robert's death inquest report. Witness statements, property records. Find the holes in the Ross brothers' story. They're claiming witnesses, Royce said, pacing the kitchen. But the sheriff ruled it accidental. Someone's lying. We just need to prove who. Clementine sat at the table, hands wrapped around cold coffee. What if we can't? We will. But what if? Clementine. He stopped, looked at her. I've spent 3 years wishing I'd fought harder for my brother. 3 years knowing I let him hang because I wasn't smart enough or fast enough or brave enough to save him. He pulled out the chair across from her, sat. I'm not making that mistake again. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. Why? He reached across the table, took her hand. His palm was rough, calloused, warm. Because somewhere between you showing up and right now, you stopped being a transaction and started being the first real thing in my life in 3 years. Her throat tightened. Royce, don't. Don't say it's too soon or we barely know each other or any of that. I know what I know. And I know I'm not letting them take you. She turned her hand over, gripped his fingers. Okay, okay, we fight. He almost smiled. Yeah, we fight. 12th night, the storm came. Thunder so loud it rattled windows. Rain like the sky tearing open. Clementine woke to it counted seconds between lightning and thunder, tried to gauge distance. Then remembered the garden. Out the door before thinking. Barefoot, soaked instantly, running toward 2 weeks of work. Wind vicious, tearing at her nightgown, whipping hair across face, could barely see. But saw enough. Garden gone, washed away. She stood in mud and rain and felt something crack wide open. Not anger, not sadness. Just exhaustion down to bone. Everything I build gets washed away. Whispered to darkness. Every single thing. Clementine. Royce running through rain blanket in hands. What the hell are you doing? Wrapped it around her shoulders, hands firm and gentle. You'll catch your death. It's gone. All of it. Dirt and seeds. We'll replant. He looked at her. Really looked. Understanding. Recognition. Yeah. We. Led her back. Sat her by stove. Made coffee laced with something that burned her throat. She didn't ask. Just drank and let warmth spread while storm raged. Tell me about your husband. Why? Because you've been here almost 2 weeks and I don't know a damn thing except your family wanted you gone. She wrapped hands around the cup. What do you want to know? The truth. Truth. Laugh without humor. Truth is, Robert Ross was a drunk, mean one. I loved him anyway until the day I couldn't anymore. Did you kill him? No. Voice steady, clear. But I stopped trying to save him. When he fell down those stairs drunk and broke his neck, I didn't cry. Didn't feel sorry. Just felt free. Long silence. His family blamed you. Blamed me for everything. Not being good enough wife, not giving him sons, not keeping him sober. When he died, they took the land, the house, everything. Said a woman like me didn't deserve what a good man built. Then sent you here. Sent me away. Big difference. She looked at him. They wanted me gone, out of sight, forgotten. This wasn't kindness, Royce. This was exile. I know. Do you? Because you took that deal, brought me here, wanted that timber bad enough to take a strange woman sight unseen. What does that make you? He didn't flinch. Selfish, opportunistic, practical. Pause. Lonely. Last word caught her off guard. Lonely. Yeah. Stood. Paced to window. My brother died 3 years ago. I left everything, our land, our town, all of it, because I couldn't stand the looks, the whispers. Everyone knew I couldn't save him. Everyone knew I failed. So I came here. Built this place. Been alone ever since. Thought bringing me here would fix that. No. Thought it'd give me more land and a housekeeper. Didn't think about you at all. He turned. But I'm thinking about you now. Something in his tone made her pulse quicken. What are you thinking? Thinking your family sent you to disappear. And I don't want you to. Rain hammered roof. Fire crackled. Clementine Ross felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Then what do you want? Royce crossed the room, knelt in front of her chair, looked up with those steady eyes. Want to help you replant that garden. Want to know more than just the worst thing that happened to you. Want... Stopped. Shook his head. Hell, I don't know, but I know it's not nothing anymore. She reached out slow, touched his face, beard rough, skin warm. Don't need you to save me. Good. I'm not very good at that. But wouldn't mind someone standing beside me while I save myself. That I can do. Storm raged, but inside something was being built that rain couldn't wash away. Two days after the storm, Thomas Ross came. Clementine was kneading dough when she heard the horse. Moved to window. Stomach dropped. Thomas, Robert's older brother. Royce was in the barn. She could see him through open doors, unaware trouble just arrived. Should warn him. Should run. Instead, walked outside, stood on porch, hands folded, and waited. Thomas dismounted slow. Big man, bigger than Robert, face like granite left in weather too long. Clementine, looking well. Thomas, didn't think I'd see you again. Then why are you here? Smiled, nothing kind in it. We've been thinking about Robert, about how he died, about how convenient for you. Pulse racing, voice level. Robert's death was an accident. Was it? Sheriff said so. Doctor said so. Well? Climbed steps, slow, deliberate. We're saying different. Royce appeared behind Thomas like shadow. Who the hell are you? Thomas turned. Royce Barrett. I presume Thomas Ross, Clementine's brother-in-law. We sent her. I remember. Get off my land. Raised hands in mock surrender. Easy, not here for trouble, here to warn you. About what? Her, pointed at Clementine. What she is, what she did. I know what she did. She survived you. Thomas's smile faded. You don't know anything. Don't know she poisoned my brother. Don't know she stood at the top of those stairs and watched him fall. Don't know. She smiled while he died. That's a lie. Clementine's voice shook. Is it? Thomas stepped closer to Royce, ignoring her. Sheriff's coming, Barrett. Got new evidence. New witnesses. Woman named Sarah Hendricks, Robert's last drinking partner. She'll testify. Clementine told her she wanted Robert dead. Told her she'd make it look like an accident. When the sheriff gets here, he's going to arrest her for murder. So if I were you, I'd distance myself before she drags you down. Royce didn't move, didn't blink. How long? What? How long until the sheriff gets here? Day, maybe 2. Then you've got a day, maybe 2, to get off my property before I shoot you for trespassing. Thomas's face darkened. Don't want to make an enemy of me, Barrett. Too late. You threatened her. We're enemies. She's a murderer. She's under my protection. Hand moved to rifle, leaning against porch railing. Leave. Before I forget I'm civilized. Long moment. Thomas stared, then spat in dirt-mounted horse. You'll regret this. Both of you. Gone. Dust and dread left behind. Clementine's legs gave out, sat hard on porch steps, whole body shaking. Royce sat beside her. Did you poison him? No. Did you push him? No. Did you ever tell anyone named Sarah Hendricks you wanted him dead? Clementine's blood went cold. Sarah, God, Sarah. You know her. Robert's cousin's wife. She pressed hands to face. I was drunk. It was 2 months before Robert died. She came by, found me with a black eye. Asked what I'd do if I could. I said, her voice cracked. I said I wished he'd just fall down the stairs and break his neck so I wouldn't have to watch him destroy himself anymore. You were venting. I was drunk and angry and scared. And now they're going to use it to hang me. Royce was quiet for a long moment. Then, tell me what happened. All of it. Because if the sheriff's coming, we don't have time for half-truths. She took breath after breath, then told him everything. Years of drinking. Violence. The night Robert came home so drunk he could barely stand. How they fought at the top of the stairs. How she tried to stop him from going down, tried to grab his arm, but he pushed her away. How he stumbled. Fell. By the time she reached him at bottom, he was gone. His brothers showed up next day, saw bruises on my arms from where Robert grabbed me, decided I caused the fall. Sheriff ruled it accident, but they spread rumors, told everyone I killed him for land. When they couldn't make me confess, they took everything anyway and sent me here. To disappear. Yes. Royce silent. Then stood. Offered his hand. Come on. Where? Inside. We've got work to do. What kind of work? Looked at her with unwavering eyes. The kind that keeps you alive. Inside, Royce lit every lamp in the house. Clementine stood by the table, arms wrapped around herself, watching him move with purpose she didn't understand yet. "Sit," he said. She sat. He pulled out paper, a pen, ink, spread them across the table like weapons. "We're going to write down everything, every detail, every person who was there, every word you remember from that night. What good will that do? I don't know yet, but we can't fight what we don't understand." He sat across from her. "Start from the beginning. What time did Robert come home?" "Late, after midnight. I was already in bed." "You heard him come in?" "Heard him stumbling, breaking things. He was singing this awful, slurred singing he did when he was really far gone." "What happened next?" "I got up, tried to help him to bed. He pushed me away, said I was always—" Her voice caught. "Said I was always trying to control him, trying to make him into something he wasn't." Royce wrote quickly, efficiently. Then he said he was going upstairs. I told him not to. Told him he was too drunk. He laughed, said I wasn't his mother, started climbing." "You followed?" "Of course I followed. He could barely stand." She closed her eyes, seeing it again. "I got to the top of the stairs. He was swaying. I reached for his arm. He jerked away from me, said—" She stopped. "Said what?" "Said, 'Stop trying to save me, Clementine. I don't want to be saved.'" Her eyes opened. Then he stepped backward, lost his balance, and fell. Royce's pen stopped moving. He stepped backward. "Yes." "Away from you." "Yes." "So you didn't push him, didn't even touch him?" "I tried to grab him when he started falling, but I missed. My hand caught his sleeve, but the fabric tore. I still have it, the piece of his shirt. I couldn't let it go for days after." Royce leaned back. "Where is it now?" "In my bag. I don't know why I kept it. Maybe because it was proof. Proof I tried." "Get it." She went to her room, dug through the canvas bag until she found it, a scrap of blue fabric, torn and wrinkled with her own nail marks still visible where she'd clutched it. Royce examined it carefully. "This is good." "How is a piece of torn shirt good?" "Because it proves you grabbed for him, proves you tried to stop the fall." He set it down gently. "What happened after?" "I ran down the stairs. He was at the bottom. His neck was—" She swallowed hard. I knew immediately he was dead. I sat there with him until dawn. Then I walked to town and told the sheriff." "What did the sheriff do?" "Came back with me, examined the body, asked me questions. I told him the truth, all of it. About the drinking, the fights, everything." "Did he believe you?" "He said he did. Said it looked like an accident. Said he'd seen it before, drunk men falling downstairs breaking their necks. He wrote it up as accidental death. Then Robert's brothers showed up. 3 days later, Thomas, James, and William. They came to the house with a lawyer. Said the property reverted to them as Robert's next of kin. Said I had no claim without children. Said—" Her hands fisted on the table. "Said if I contested it, they'd make sure everyone knew what kind of woman I really was. Meaning they'd tell everyone I killed him. They had Sarah Hendricks ready to testify about what I'd said when I was drunk and desperate. They had neighbors who'd heard us fighting. They said they'd drag my name through so much mud I'd never recover." She looked at him. "So I signed the papers, gave them everything, and they sent me here." Royce was quiet for a long time, reading over his notes. Then, "This Sarah Hendricks. You trust her?" "I did once. We were friends, sort of, but she was close with Thomas's wife. After Robert died, she stopped talking to me." "So they got to her. Or she always believed I did it." Clementine's voice went flat. "Maybe she's telling the truth as she sees it. Maybe I did sound like I wanted him dead." Wanting someone dead and killing them are different things. Are they? When you wish for something and it happens? Yes. Royce's voice was sharp. Because wishing isn't action. You didn't poison him. You didn't push him. You tried to save him and failed. That's not murder. That's just being human. Something in her chest loosened. What do we do now? She asked. Now we prove it. He stood. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we ride to town. We're going to talk to that lawyer I mentioned, get copies of every document, and figure out what evidence Thomas really has. Then we're going to break it apart piece by piece. And if we can't, he looked at her steadily, we will, because the alternative is not acceptable. She didn't sleep. Just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Royce pace upstairs, back and forth like a caged animal. Near dawn, she heard him come downstairs, heard the front door open and close. She got up, wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and went outside. He was sitting on the porch steps, rifle across his knees, watching the eastern sky lighten. You're supposed to be sleeping, he said without turning. So are you. Can't. Too busy thinking. She sat beside him. Their shoulders touched. About what? About how I'm going to keep you safe. About what I'll do if the sheriff takes you anyway. About... He stopped. About what? About how quickly you became someone I can't imagine losing. Her breath caught. Royce. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But I've spent 3 years alone, Clementine. 3 years not letting anyone close, not caring about anyone, not feeling anything except guilt and regret. Then you showed up and... He turned to look at her. You made me remember what it feels like to want to fight for something. Someone. I never asked you to fight for me. I know. That's why I want to. The sun was rising, painting the sky pink and gold. Clementine thought about all the ways she'd gotten here, all the choices that had led to this moment, sitting beside a man she'd known for 2 weeks who was willing to risk everything for her. My whole life, she said quietly, people told me what I was worth. My father said I was worth a good marriage. Robert said I was worth whatever he decided that day. His brothers said I was worth less than the land I stood on. But you, her voice wavered. You make me feel like maybe I'm worth fighting for. You are, and not maybe, definitely. She turned to him. Their faces were inches apart. She could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes, the scar above his left eyebrow, the tension in his jaw. If this goes wrong, she started, it won't. But if it does, if they take me, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't blame yourself. Don't carry this the way you carried your brother. Promise me. His hand came up, cupped her face. Can't promise that. Royce? But I can promise I'll fight like hell to make sure it never comes to that. He kissed her then, soft and careful, like she might break, like she was something precious he was afraid of damaging. She kissed him back harder, nothing careful about it. She'd been broken before and survived. She wasn't afraid of damage anymore. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. We should go, he said. Sun's up. Town's 2 hours' ride. Then let's ride. They took Royce's horse, a big bay gelding named Tucker, and rode double. Clementine's arms wrapped around Royce's waist. She'd never been comfortable on horses, but pressed against his back, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing, she felt safer than she had in years. The town was called Clemens. Small, dusty, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business by noon. They hitched Tucker outside a building with a sign that read, Marcus Webb, Attorney at Law. This the man who owes you? Clementine asked. Yeah, defended his brother 5 years back. Got him off on a rustling charge that would have gotten him hanged. He's good. He's honest. That's better. Inside, a man in his 50s looked up from a desk covered in papers, Thin face-wire spectacles, ink-stained fingers. When he saw Royce, he stood quickly. "Royce Barrett, didn't expect to see you again." "Marcus, need your help." Marcus's eyes shifted to Clementine. "This about her. You know who she is." "Got a telegram 2 days ago. Sheriff from Missouri asking if anyone had seen Clementine Ross. Said she was wanted for questioning in her husband's death." He looked at her directly. "That you—" "Yes." "You kill him?" "No." "Can you prove it?" Royce stepped forward. "That's why we're here. We need to see everything: the original death certificate, the sheriff's report, witness statements. And we need to know what new evidence the Ross brothers claim to have." Marcus sat back down slowly. "That's a tall order." "You owe me." "I know I do. But this—" he gestured at Clementine. "This could get me disbarred. Helping a fugitive." "She's not a fugitive. She hasn't been charged. She hasn't even been questioned properly. They just want to drag her back and railroad her." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "Sit down, both of you." They sat. Marcus pulled out a file, opened it. "I've already done some digging, called in a few favors, got copies of the original inquest." He slid papers across the desk. "Sheriff ruled accidental death. Medical examiner confirmed broken neck consistent with a fall. No signs of poisoning, no signs of struggle beyond what you'd expect from someone grabbing at a falling person." Clementine leaned forward. "Then what's changed?" "Witness testimony. Woman named Sarah Hendricks came forward 3 weeks ago. Said you'd confessed to wanting your husband dead. Said you'd talked about making it look like an accident." "I was drunk and desperate. It wasn't a confession. It was venting." Difference might not matter to a jury. Royce's hand clenched on the chair arm. "What else?" "They're claiming you stood to inherit, that you had motive." "I didn't inherit anything. His brothers took it all." Marcus nodded. "Which actually works in your favor. Hard to argue financial motive when you ended up with nothing. But they're claiming you didn't know the property would revert to them. That you thought you'd inherit and were surprised when you didn't." "That's not—" Clementine stopped. "Actually, that's true. I didn't know about the property clause. Robert never told me. But I didn't kill him for land I didn't know I wouldn't get." "I believe you. But convincing a jury is different." Marcus took off his spectacles, cleaned them. "Here's what you're up against. Sarah Hendricks will testify you wanted him dead. Robert's brothers will testify you fought constantly. Neighbors will confirm they heard shouting. And the timing you stood to gain or thought you did. It's circumstantial, but it's enough to make a case." "So what do we do?" Royce asked. "We find something that breaks their story, something that proves Clementine couldn't have done it, or wouldn't have, or—" He paused. "We find proof someone else had reason to want Robert Ross dead." Clementine's head snapped up. "What? Think about it. Man that drunk, that violent, with family, willing to lie to get you convicted. What if one of them wanted him dead, and you're just the convenient scapegoat?" "That's insane." "Is it?" Marcus leaned forward. "Who benefited from Robert's death?" "His brothers. They got the land." "Exactly. And they're the ones pushing hardest for your conviction." "Why? Why not just let it lie as an accident?" Royce stood up, started pacing. "Because if she's convicted, no one asks questions. No one looks at them. They're the grieving family seeking justice." "Right. But if the death was ruled accidental and everyone moved on, someone might start wondering why 3 brothers were so eager to get their hands on their drunk brother's property." Clementine felt dizzy. "You think they killed him?" "I think it's worth investigating. At the very least, it creates reasonable doubt." Marcus pulled out fresh paper. "Tell me about the brothers. All 3. Start with Thomas." "Thomas is the oldest, 42. He's calculating. Robert used to say Thomas could sell snow to a Canadian and make them thank him for it. So he's smart. Very. And ruthless. When their father died, Thomas made sure he got the biggest portion of land. Convinced their father to change the will 2 weeks before he died. How'd he manage that? I don't know. Robert never told me. But I remember him being angry about it. Said Thomas had always been the favorite, always knew how to manipulate their father. Royce stopped pacing. What about the other two, James and William? James is quieter, follows Thomas's lead. William is... She hesitated. William's mean, really mean. Robert was scared of him when he was sober. Scared how? I don't know exactly, but once William came by and Robert hid. Actually hid in the cellar until he left. When I asked why, Robert just said, "You don't cross William. Not if you want to keep breathing." Marcus wrote quickly. That's interesting, very interesting. Why? Clementine asked. Because scared men don't usually leave their property to the people they're afraid of. But Robert's will left everything to his brothers, correct? Yes. Did Robert write that will himself? She thought back. No. Thomas brought a lawyer to the house. Said Robert needed to get his affairs in order. This was maybe 6 months before Robert died. And Robert signed it? Yes, but he was drunk. He was always drunk by then. Marcus and Royce exchanged looks. What? Clementine demanded. Might be nothing, Marcus said. But I'd like to see that will. See who witnessed it. See exactly what it says. Why? Because if Robert was coerced into signing, or if he wasn't of sound mind, or if there's any irregularity at all, that will become suspect. And if the will is suspect, so is the transfer of property. And if the property transfer is suspect, then Thomas and his brothers had a lot to gain from Robert's death. Royce finished. Clementine's hands were shaking. You think they killed him? Actually killed him? I think, Marcus said carefully, that we need to ask the question, and we need to do it before that marshal arrives. How long do we have? Royce asked. 3 days, maybe 4. Then we better get started. They spent the next 2 hours going through documents, death certificate, inquest report, property deed, the will. Marcus took notes, asked questions, pointed out inconsistencies. The will bothered him most. Look at this, he said, pointing. Robert's signature. See how it slants. Clementine looked. It's messy. He was drunk when he signed. Maybe. But look at his signature on the property deed from when he first bought the land. Completely different hand. Steadier. Clearer. That was years earlier. Before the drinking got bad. True. But even accounting for that, Marcus pulled out another document. This is a letter Robert wrote to the county clerk 2 years ago, disputing a tax assessment. Look at the signature. She looked. The signature was shaky, definitely from someone who drank, but it was recognizable. The same basic shape and flow. The signature on the will looked nothing like it. Someone else signed this, Royce said quietly. Maybe. Or Robert was so drunk he could barely hold the pen. Hard to prove either way. Marcus tapped the paper. But this witness signature that's interesting. Why? Because it's Sarah Hendricks. The room went silent. Sarah witnessed the will. Clementine's voice was barely a whisper. According to this, yes. Her and James Ross. So Sarah was there when Robert signed over everything to his brothers, and now she's testifying that I confessed to wanting him dead. Clementine felt sick. She's in on it. She's part of whatever they did. We don't know that for sure, Marcus cautioned. But it's suspicious. Very suspicious. Royce's jaw was tight. Can we use this? Maybe. Depends on what else we find. I need to do more digging, talk to people in Missouri, find out what Robert's relationship with his brothers was really like. See if anyone else suspected foul play. How long will that take? Too long if that marshal shows up first. Marcus looked at Clementine. You need to stay out of sight. Don't go into town. Don't let anyone see you. If the marshal arrives and you're not at Royce's place, he can't arrest you. That's just delaying the inevitable, she said. Maybe, but it buys us time. And time is what we need. Royce stood. We'll head back. Keep our heads down. You send word if you find anything. I will. Marcus looked at Clementine. For what it's worth, I believe you. And I'm going to do everything I can to prove your innocence. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when this is over. They rode back in silence, both lost in thought. The sun was high and hot, and Clementine's mind was spinning. Sarah Hendricks, witness to the will, now witness against her. It made a sick kind of sense. If Sarah had been part of whatever scheme Thomas hatched, she'd have every reason to make sure Clementine went down for Robert's death. Keep the questions focused on the widow, away from the brothers who stood to inherit. You're thinking too loud, Royce said. She realized she'd been gripping him tighter, loosened her hold. Sorry. Don't be. Just tell me what's going through your head. I'm thinking about Sarah, about how I trusted her. She was the only person who knew how bad things really were with Robert, the only person I could talk to. And she betrayed you. Yes, but why? What did she get out of it? She's not family. She doesn't inherit anything. Maybe they paid her, or maybe, Royce paused. Maybe they had something on her, something that made her cooperate. Like what? I don't know, but people don't usually risk perjury for nothing. They rode for another mile before Clementine spoke again. What if we can't prove it? What if Marcus digs and finds nothing? Then we run. She blinked. What? We run. Head west. Canada maybe. Somewhere they can't find us. Royce, you can't just abandon your land. Your life. Watch me. His voice was hard. I already lost my brother because I tried to fight the law and failed. I'm not losing you the same way. If it comes down to staying and watching you hang or running and keeping you alive, we run. That's not... I mean it, Clementine. I'll burn this place to the ground before I let them take you. She pressed her forehead against his back, felt his heart beating steady and strong. I don't deserve you, she whispered. You're right. You deserve better. But you're stuck with me anyway. For the first time in days, she almost smiled. When they got back to the ranch, there was a horse tied to the porch. Royce's hand went to his rifle. Stay behind me. They dismounted carefully. Royce kept himself between Clementine and the house as they approached. The front door opened. A woman stepped out. 50-ish, worn face, threadbare dress. She looked at them with eyes that held something like desperation. Mrs. Ross, she said. Clementine Ross. Who's asking? Royce's voice was cold. My name's Ellen Porter. She twisted her hands together. I need to talk to you. About Robert. About what really happened. Clementine's heart stopped. What do you know about Robert? I know he didn't fall. I know because I was there. Ellen's voice broke. And I know who pushed him. Clementine couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The words hung in the air like gunpowder smoke burning her lungs. Inside, Royce said, voice tight. Now. Ellen Porter walked into the house like she expected to be shot. Clementine followed, legs shaking. Royce came last, rifle still in hand, eyes never leaving their visitor. They sat at the kitchen table. Ellen's hands trembled so badly she had to press them flat against the wood to keep them still. Start talking, Royce said. And it better be the truth. It is. I swear on my children's lives it's the truth. Ellen looked at Clementine. I'm so sorry. I should have come forward sooner. Should have told the sheriff what I saw. But I was scared. Still am. But I can't. Her voice cracked. I can't let you hang for something you didn't do. What did you see? Clementine's voice came out hoarse. I clean houses in town. Did the Ross brothers' places twice a week. That night, the night Robert died, I was at Thomas's house late. He'd had a dinner party and the mess was terrible. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when I heard them come in. Thomas and William. Didn't know I was there. Thought they were alone. What time was this? Near midnight. Maybe a little after. Clementine's pulse hammered. Robert had died around 1 in the morning. What did they say? Ellen closed her eyes. Thomas was laughing. Said something like, "Drunk bastard never knew what hit him." And William said, "You sure she'll take the fall?" Thomas said, "She's been threatening to kill him for months. Half the town's heard her. She's the perfect scapegoat." The room tilted. Clementine gripped the table edge. They were talking about me. Yes. Then William asked what they'd do if the sheriff didn't rule it an accident. Thomas said he'd already taken care of that, had Sarah Hendricks ready to testify about what you'd said when you were drunk. Said between Sarah's testimony and the fact you were the only one there when Robert fell, no jury would doubt your guilt. Royce leaned forward. They admitted to killing him. Not directly, but Thomas said something else. Said, "Easiest thing in the world, wait until he's drunk enough he can't stand, give him a push, and let gravity do the rest." Then he laughed again. Said Robert had been a problem for years, and they'd finally solved it. Clementine couldn't feel her hands. They murdered him. They actually murdered him. I think so. Yes. Why? The word came out like a sob. Why would they kill their own brother? Ellen met her eyes. Because Robert was about to change his will. Silence crashed down. What? Royce said. Robert came to Thomas's house 2 weeks before he died. I was cleaning upstairs, heard them arguing. Robert said he was done. Done with the drinking, done with the fighting, done with all of it. Said he was going to get sober and make things right with you, Mrs. Ross. Said he was going to change his will, leave everything to you the way it should have been from the start. Tears burned Clementine's eyes. He said that, yes. And Thomas tried to talk him out of it. Said you didn't deserve the land. Said Robert was just feeling guilty and would regret it when he sobered up. But Robert was adamant. Said he'd already contacted a lawyer in the next county. Said the new will would be drawn up within the month. So Thomas killed him first. Royce's voice was flat, hard. Killed him before he could change the will and leave everything to Clementine. That's what I think. Can't prove it, but that's what I think. Clementine pressed her hands to her face. Robert had been trying to change, had been trying to make things right, and his brothers had killed him for it. Why didn't you tell the sheriff? Royce asked. Because I'm terrified. Ellen's voice shook. Thomas Ross owns half the town. He's on the town council. He's got the sheriff in his pocket. I've seen him hand the man cash more than once. If I'd said anything, if I'd even hinted that I suspected Thomas, I'd be dead. My children would be orphaned. So I kept quiet, and I hated myself for it. What changed? Clementine asked. Why come forward now? Because I heard the marshal was coming. Heard he was going to arrest you and drag you back to stand trial. And I realized that keeping quiet to protect myself meant watching an innocent woman hang. Ellen's eyes filled. I've got 2 daughters, Mrs. Ross. If something happened to me and someone knew the truth, but stayed silent to save their own skin, I'd haunt them from the grave. I can't do that to you. Won't do that to you. Royce stood paced to the window. Will you testify in court under oath? If it comes to that, yes. But Thomas will destroy me. He'll ruin my reputation, run me out of town, maybe worse. I need protection. For me and my girls. You'll have it. Royce turned. You stay here, with us, until this is settled. We've got room. You'll be safe. I can't just... Yes, you can. And you will. His voice left no room for argument. You came here to do the right thing. Now let us help you finish it. Ellen looked at Clementine, searching her face. You believe me? Yes. Clementine's voice was steady, despite the tears on her cheeks. I believe you. Thank you. Ellen sagged in her chair like a puppet with cut strings. God, thank you. Clementine reached across the table, took Ellen's shaking hands in hers. No, thank you. You're saving my life. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just trying to save my soul. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Royce rode to town to send a telegram to Marcus Webb, telling him about Ellen's testimony. Clementine helped Ellen settle into the small room upstairs. Royce insisted on taking the couch downstairs, so Ellen would have privacy and comfort. You don't have to do this, Ellen said as Clementine brought her fresh water and a blanket. I'm the one who owes you. We're helping each other. That's how this works. Ellen sat on the bed, looked around the simple room. Your husband, Royce, he's a good man. He's not my husband. Oh, I just assumed. We've known each other 2 weeks. Ellen blinked. 2 weeks. The way he looks at you, the way he's willing to fight for you, I thought. She stopped. I'm sorry. Not my business. It's all right. Clementine sat beside her. He is a good man. Better than I deserve. Don't say that. Don't ever say that. Ellen's voice was fierce. You survived Robert. You survived his family trying to destroy you. You survived being sent here like cargo. You deserve every bit of goodness that comes your way. Something in Clementine's chest loosened. Thank you. And for what it's worth, I don't think he sees it as charity. The way that man looks at you. Ellen shook her head. That's not obligation. That's something else entirely. Before Clementine could respond, they heard a horse approaching. Fast. Both women went to the window. Royce riding hard Tucker's flanks, dark with sweat. Something was wrong. Clementine ran downstairs, met him at the door. What happened? Marshall's already here. Arrived this morning. Royce was breathing hard. He's at Marcus's office now. Marcus sent word we've got until tomorrow morning. Then he's coming here with a warrant. That's not 3 days. That's... I know. They moved faster than we thought. He looked past her to Ellen standing at the top of the stairs. We need your testimony. Tonight. Marcus is drafting an affidavit now. We need you to sign it, get it notarized before the marshal shows up. Ellen came down slowly. If I sign that, Thomas will know. He'll know I betrayed him. He'll know anyway once this goes to trial. But there's a difference between testifying if forced and volunteering information. One might let me keep breathing. Royce's voice gentled. I know you're scared, but Clementine's going to hang if we don't have your testimony. You know that, right? Without you, it's her word against Sarah Hendricks and 3 grieving brothers. No jury will choose the widow over that. Ellen's eyes closed. I know. Then please, come with me. Sign the affidavit. Let Marcus file it with the court. It might be enough to stop the arrest, or at least delay it until we can investigate further. And if it's not enough, then at least we tried. Ellen opened her eyes, looked at Clementine. Your husband, Robert, he wasn't all bad. Before the drinking got really bad, he used to help people. Fixed Mrs. Henderson's fence after a storm. Gave the Morrison family food when their crops failed. He had goodness in him once. I know. I think that's why Thomas killed him. Not just for the land, but because Robert was trying to come back to that goodness. Trying to be the man he was before. And Thomas couldn't let that happen. Couldn't let Robert choose you over family. Over money. Ellen squared her shoulders. All right. I'll sign. Let Thomas come for me if he wants. At least I'll be able to look my daughters in the eye and tell them I did the right thing. Old. They rode into town together, all 3 on horseback. Ellen on her mare, Clementine, and Royce on Tucker. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and red, and Clementine thought how strange it was that the world could be so beautiful when everything was falling apart. Marcus Webb was waiting in his office, papers already prepared. The marshal was there too. Clementine's stomach dropped when she saw him. Big man 50-something with a face like weathered leather and eyes that missed nothing. He looked at her the way you'd look at a horse you were considering buying, appraising, calculating, slightly disappointed. "Mrs. Ross," he said, "I'm Marshal Vernon Pike. I've got a warrant for your arrest." "She's not going anywhere," Royce said. "Son, I don't want trouble, but I've got a job to do." "So do I, and my job is keeping her alive long enough to prove her innocence." Royce gestured to Ellen. "This is Ellen Porter. She's got information about Robert Ross's death, information that changes everything." Pike looked at Ellen. "That right, ma'am?" "Yes, sir." Ellen's voice shook, but she kept talking. "I witnessed Thomas and William Ross discussing Robert's death. They admitted to causing his fall. They planned to frame Mrs. Ross for murder." Pike's expression didn't change. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth." "You willing to swear to that under oath?" "Yes, sir." "Even knowing the Ross brothers will come after you?" Ellen swallowed hard. "Yes, sir." Pike looked at Marcus. "You got an affidavit?" "Right here. I just need her signature and a notary." "I'm notarized. Let me see it." Marcus handed over the papers. Pike read slowly, carefully, lips moving slightly. When he finished, he set the papers down and looked at Ellen. "Mrs. Porter, if you sign this, there's no taking it back. You understand that—" "I understand." "And you're certain about what you heard?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." Pike nodded slowly. Then he pushed the papers toward her. "Then sign." Ellen signed. Her hand shook so badly the signature was barely legible, but she signed. Pike witnessed it, added his seal, and handed the papers back to Marcus. "File this with the court first thing tomorrow. I'll hold off on the arrest until the judge has a chance to review it." "Thank you, Marshal," Marcus said. "Don't thank me yet. This doesn't clear Mrs. Ross, just gives her a fighting chance." Pike looked at Clementine. "You stay at Barrett's ranch. Don't leave. Don't run. If you run, I'll assume guilt and I'll hunt you down. Understood?" "Understood." "Good." He tipped his hat. "I'll be in touch." He left. The room exhaled collectively. Marcus sat down hard in his chair. "That was closer than I'd like." "Will it work?" Royce asked. "Will Ellen's testimony be enough?" "To stop the arrest." "Maybe. To get Clementine cleared entirely, I don't know. We need more. We need proof that Thomas and William were there that night. We need to break Sarah Hendricks' testimony. We need—" He stopped. "We need Robert's body exhumed." Silence fell like a stone. "What?" Clementine whispered. "If Thomas pushed Robert, there might be evidence. Bruising patterns. Something that shows Robert didn't just fall, that he was pushed from behind. The original examination was cursory at best. A full autopsy might show something different." "You want to dig up my husband?" "I want to prove you didn't kill him. And if that means exhuming the body, then yes." Marcus looked at her steadily. "I know it's not pleasant, but it might be necessary." Clementine felt sick. The thought of Robert's body being pulled from the ground, examined, dissected. But if it proved her innocence, if it kept her from hanging— "Do it," she said. "Whatever it takes." Marcus nodded. "I'll file a motion tomorrow. Should get approval within 48 hours. "And in the meantime," Royce asked. "In the meantime, we pray the Ross brothers don't hear about Ellen's testimony before we can build a full case." They rode back to the ranch in darkness. Ellen was quiet, lost in her own thoughts. Clementine kept glancing at her, this stranger who'd risked everything to save her life. "Why'd you really come forward?" Clementine asked. "Not the answer you gave before, the real reason." Ellen was quiet for a long time. Then, "Because I have daughters, and I kept thinking about them growing up in a world where men like Thomas Ross can kill and get away with it. Where women like you can be sacrificed to protect powerful men. I kept thinking about what kind of example I was setting. What kind of world I was allowing to exist by staying silent." She looked at Clementine. My girls deserve better. You deserve better. And I can't teach them to be brave if I'm too cowardly to do the right thing myself. You're not cowardly. You're terrified. There's a difference. Is there? Yes, cowards run. You're riding toward the danger. Ellen smiled faintly. Maybe we both are. When they got back to the ranch, Royce made food simple hearty soup that none of them really tasted. They ate in silence, exhaustion settling over them like fog. Ellen went to bed early. Clementine and Royce stayed at the table, neither quite ready to face the night alone. You all right? He asked. No, no. She almost laughed. At least you're honest. Always am. Especially with you. He reached across the table, took her hand. This is going to work. Ellen's testimony, the exhumation, Marcus's investigation, it's all going to add up. We're going to prove your innocence. You sound so sure. I have to be. Because the alternative... His grip tightened. The alternative is not something I'm willing to consider. She turned her hand over, laced their fingers together. What happens after, if we win, if I'm cleared, what then? What do you mean? I mean you took me in because of a deal. Land for a housekeeper. That deal's void now. My family's not giving you that timber. So what happens to me when this is over? Royce stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You think I'd send you away? I don't know. Would you? Clementine? He stood, pulled her up with him, gripped her shoulders. I don't give a damn about the timber. Don't give a damn about the deal. You think that's why I'm fighting for you, for land. Then why? Because somewhere between you showing up and right now, you became mine, and I became yours, and no amount of cleared charges or settled cases is going to change that. Her breath caught. Yours. If you want to be. If you don't. If you want to leave after this is done, I'll understand. I'll help you go wherever you want. Set you up with money, land, whatever you need. But if you want to stay... His voice roughened. If you want to stay, then stay. Not as a housekeeper. Not as payment for land. Stay as my partner. My... He stopped, seemed to struggle with the word. My wife. If you'll have me. Tears spilled over. You're asking me to marry you. I'm asking you to build a life with me. Here. Together. I'm asking you to replant that garden and let me help. I'm asking you to trust that I'm not going anywhere, and neither are you. She threw her arms around his neck, held him so tight she could feel his heartbeat against hers. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll stay. Yes to all of it. He kissed her, then deep and fierce and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were shaking. We should sleep, he said. Big day tomorrow. Stay with me tonight. Please. I don't want to be alone. He hesitated. Clementine. I'm not asking for anything except not to be alone. Just stay. He nodded. All right. Yeah, I'll stay. They went to her small room, lay down together fully clothed on top of the blankets. She pressed her back against his chest, felt his arm come around her waist, holding her close. I've got you, he whispered. No matter what happens tomorrow or the next day or the day after that, I've got you. She believed him. And for the first time since Robert died, since his family destroyed her life, since she'd been exiled to this ranch in the middle of nowhere, Clementine Ross fell asleep feeling safe. Morning came too fast. Royce was already up making coffee when Clementine emerged from her room. Ellen was at the table looking like she hadn't slept at all. I keep thinking they'll come, Ellen said quietly. Thomas and his brothers. That they'll show up and... She didn't finish. They won't, Royce said. Not while I'm here. You can't watch all the time. Then I'll get help. There's men in town who owe me favors. Good men who won't stand by and watch innocents get threatened. A knock at the door made all three of them jump. Royce grabbed his rifle. "Stay here." He opened the door carefully. Marcus Webb stood there, papers in hand, face grim. "We've got a problem," Marcus said. Clementine's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Sarah Hendricks is dead. Found her this morning in her home. Looks like she took poison." The world tilted. "What?" "Left a note. Saying she couldn't live with what she'd done. Saying she'd lied about you confessing to wanting Robert dead. Saying the Ross brothers paid her to testify and she was sorry." Clementine couldn't speak. Couldn't think. Sarah was dead. Sarah, who'd been her friend once, who'd betrayed her, who'd apparently tried to make amends in the worst way possible. She killed herself. Ellen's voice was hollow. "That's what it looks like, but I'm not convinced." Marcus set the papers on the table. "Suicide right after Ellen comes forward, right after we start building a case against the Ross brothers. That's convenient. Too convenient." "You think they killed her?" Royce said. "I think it's possible. Sarah was their key witness. Without her, their case falls apart. Maybe she got cold feet. Maybe she threatened to recant. Maybe they decided she was a liability. Or maybe she actually felt guilty and couldn't live with it," Clementine said softly. "Maybe. Either way, it changes things. Without Sarah's testimony, the prosecution's case is significantly weaker. Combined with Ellen's affidavit and the exhumation results, assuming they show what we hope they show, we might actually have a shot at getting the charges dropped entirely." "When will we know about the exhumation?" Royce asked. "Judge approved it this morning. They're doing it today. Should have results by tonight or tomorrow morning." "That fast?" Marshall Pike pushed it through. "He wants this resolved quickly either way. I think he smells something rotten and wants to expose it before it spreads." Ellen stood. "What about me? Am I safe if Thomas thinks Sarah was killed to keep her quiet?" "You're staying here, out of sight. And I'm going to file an emergency motion for protective custody. Get you and your daughters official protection until this is resolved." "My daughters." Ellen's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God, I didn't even think if Thomas goes after them." "He won't. I've already sent word to have them brought here. They'll arrive by evening." "You..." Ellen's eyes filled. "You did that?" "Of course. You think I'd let children be in danger?" Ellen sat down hard, tears streaming. "Thank you. Thank you." Marcus's expression softened. "You did a brave thing, Mrs. Porter. Let us protect you while we finish this." The rest of the day passed in tense waiting. Ellen's daughters arrived around dinner time, 2 girls, 12 and 14, frightened and confused. Ellen held them close, whispered reassurances. Clementine wasn't sure any of them believed. Royce stationed himself on the porch with his rifle watching the road. Clementine cooked clean, tried to stay busy, tried not to think about Robert's body being pulled from the earth, examined, judged. Near sunset, a rider came. Marcus. They all gathered in the kitchen, Ellen's daughters sent upstairs over their protests. "Well?" Royce demanded. Marcus pulled out a report. Medical examiner found bruising on Robert's upper back and shoulders, consistent with being pushed from behind with significant force. Clementine's knees went weak. Royce caught her, held her steady. "What does that mean?" she whispered. "It means Robert didn't just fall. Someone pushed him, hard. And that someone wasn't you. You were in front of him at the top of the stairs according to your original statement. The bruising indicates he was pushed from behind." "So whoever killed him was behind him on the stairs," Royce said. "Yes, and since you testified, you were the only other person in the house. Then I was lying, or someone else was there." Clementine's mind raced. "Someone who came in after I went to bed. Someone Robert knew and let in." "Or someone who had a key," Ellen said quietly. "Thomas had a key to Robert's house. Said it was in case of emergency. But I saw him use it once, just walked right in like he owned the place." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's good. That's very good. combined with Ellen's testimony about what she overheard, the suspicious timing of Sarah's death, and now physical evidence that contradicts the prosecution's theory. He smiled. I think we might actually win this. Might? Clementine asked. Nothing's certain until the judge rules, but we've got reasonable doubt, more than enough to prevent a conviction, maybe enough to get charges dismissed entirely. Royce pulled Clementine closer. When will we know? Hearing set for tomorrow morning. Marshal Pike will present his findings, I'll present our evidence, and the judge will decide whether there's enough cause to proceed with an arrest and trial. And if he decides there is, Clementine asked, then we fight it in court. But I don't think it'll come to that. Pike's on our side now, he told me as much. Said the Ross brothers have been dirty for years, and he's happy to finally have cause to investigate them properly. Will they be arrested? Ellen asked. Thomas and William. If the judge believes our evidence, yes, for Robert's murder, and possibly for Sarah's death if we can prove they were involved. Ellen sagged with relief. Then it's almost over. Almost, Marcus cautioned. But we're not done yet. Everyone stays here tonight. Stay alert. Stay safe. Tomorrow we finish this. That night, Clementine couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle, thinking about Robert, about the man he'd been before the drinking, about the man he'd tried to become at the end. A soft knock on her door. You awake? Royce's voice. Yeah. He came in, sat on the edge of her bed. Thinking about tomorrow. Thinking about Robert. About how he died trying to do the right thing, trying to give me what I deserved, and his own brothers killed him for it. They're going to pay for that. Are they men like Thomas? They always seem to slip away. Not this time. Royce's voice was hard. Pike wants them. Marcus wants them. And I sure as hell want them. They're not slipping away. She sat up, took his hand. What if something goes wrong? What if the judge doesn't believe us? Then we run. Like I said before. We take Ellen and her girls, and we disappear. Canada, Mexico. Somewhere they can't find us. You'd really do that? Give up everything? For you? Yes, without question. She kissed him, then slow and sweet, and full of everything she couldn't put into words. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. Tomorrow, he said. We end this tomorrow. Tomorrow, she agreed. He left. She lay back down. And this time, finally she slept. Dawn broke cold and clear. Clementine woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of low voices in the kitchen. When she emerged, still in her nightgown with a shawl wrapped around her shoulders, she found Royce Marcus and Marshal Pike all standing around the table looking at papers spread across the surface. Pike glanced up. Mrs. Ross, didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. What's happening? Change of plans, Marcus said. The hearing's been moved up. Judge wants to see us in an hour. Her stomach dropped. An hour? Thomas Ross filed an emergency motion last night. Claims Ellen Porter's testimony is fabricated and that we're engaged in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. He's demanding your immediate arrest pending trial. Can he do that? He can try. But Pike here brought the exhumation results directly to the judge at dawn. Judge wants to hear everything before making a decision. Royce moved to her side, put his hand on her lower back. Get dressed. We leave in 20 minutes. She nodded numb and went back to her room. Her hands shook as she pulled on her best dress, the one she'd been married in years ago. Gray wool, simple lines, no ornamentation. It felt right somehow. Like armor. When she came back out, Ellen was already dressed, her daughters clinging to her sides. The girls looked terrified. They have to come, Clementine asked. I'm not leaving them here alone, Ellen said. Not with Thomas knowing where I am. They'll be safe at the courthouse, Pike said. I've got 2 deputies waiting there. Nobody's getting to anyone without going through them first. They rode to town in a wagon Pike had brought him, driving Marcus beside him, the rest of them in the back. It felt like riding to an execution. Clementine kept her hands folded in her lap to keep them from shaking. Royce sat pressed against her side, solid and warm, his presence the only thing keeping her from flying apart. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "I'm right here. You're not alone in this." "I know. And if it goes wrong, if they try to take you, don't." She gripped his hand. "Don't finish that sentence. We're going to win this. We have to." The courthouse was a simple brick building in the center of town. A crowd had already gathered outside. Word had spread fast. Clementine saw faces she recognized from her old life in Missouri. Neighbors who'd turned their backs on her. People who'd believed the Ross brothers' lies. And standing at the front of the crowd, arms crossed, face hard as stone, was Thomas Ross. Their eyes met. He smiled. Cold, calculating, triumphant. "Don't look at him," Royce murmured. "He wants to rattle you." "He's succeeding." Pike led them through a side entrance away from the crowd. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with a judge's bench at the front and 2 tables facing it. Marcus directed them to one table. Thomas William and James Ross took the other, along with a lawyer Clementine didn't recognize, sharp-eyed man in an expensive suit who looked like he ate innocent people for breakfast. The judge entered. Everyone stood. He was older than Clementine expected, 70 at least, with white hair and a face that had seen too much of humanity's worst. "Be seated," he said, voice like gravel. "We're here on an emergency motion filed by Thomas Ross regarding the pending case against Clementine Ross. Mr. Ross, you claim the widow murdered your brother. The widow claims innocence. Marshal Pike has presented new evidence. I want to hear it all before I make any decisions. Mr. Webb, you're representing Mrs. Ross." "Yes, Your Honor." "Then start talking. And make it good, because I don't appreciate having my morning interrupted for anything less than the truth." Marcus stood. "Your Honor, the prosecution's case rests on 3 pillars. First, that Mrs. Ross had motive. She allegedly stood to inherit her husband's property. Second, that she had means. She was alone in the house with Robert Ross when he died. Third, that she confessed her intent to a witness, Sarah Hendricks, weeks before the death. We're here to prove all 3 pillars are false." "Go on." "As to motive, Mrs. Ross did not stand to inherit. The property reverted to Robert Ross's brothers upon his death, as stipulated in a will signed 6 months prior. A will, I might add, that was witnessed by Sarah Hendricks and James Ross." He gestured to the papers in front of him. "A will that our handwriting expert believes was signed under duress, or possibly forged entirely, as Robert Ross's signature bears little resemblance to his known hand." The Ross brothers' lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection. Those are serious accusations with no foundation." "I have the expert's report right here," Marcus said calmly. "Along with samples of Robert Ross's signature from multiple sources. The discrepancy is clear." The judge held out his hand. Marcus passed him the documents. The judge read slowly, eyes narrowing. "Continue, Mr. Webb." "As to means, yes. Mrs. Ross was in the house when her husband died, but she was not the only person present. We have testimony from Ellen Porter, a cleaning woman employed by the Ross family, who overheard Thomas and William Ross discussing Robert's death in terms that strongly suggest premeditation and execution." Thomas surged to his feet. "That's a damned lie." The judge's gavel came down hard. "Mr. Ross, sit down and be silent, or I'll have you removed from my courtroom." Thomas sat, jaw clenched so tight, Clementine could see the muscles jumping. Marcus continued. "Mrs. Porter will testify that she heard Thomas Ross say, quote, 'Drunk bastard, never knew what hit him,' and that Thomas explicitly discussed using Mrs. Ross as a scapegoat. Furthermore, Mrs. Porter testified that Robert Ross was planning to change his will to leave everything to his widow, and that Thomas was aware of this plan." "Why would Robert Ross change his will?" the judge asked. "Because he was attempting sobriety, Your Honor. Attempting to repair his marriage and make amends for years of abuse." His brothers couldn't allow that. If Robert changed his will, they'd lose the inheritance they'd been positioning themselves to claim. The Ross brothers' lawyer stood again. Your Honor, this is pure speculation. Mrs. Porter's testimony is hearsay and cannot be corroborated. Can it? Marcus pulled out another document. This is a letter from Jonathan Price, an attorney in the neighboring county. Mr. Price confirms that Robert Ross contacted him 4 weeks before his death, requesting assistance in drafting a new will. Mr. Price was scheduled to meet with Robert the week after his death. That meeting obviously never took place. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge banged his gavel. As to the third pillar, Marcus said over the noise, Sarah Hendricks' testimony. Miss Hendricks is now dead, allegedly by her own hand, but in a note left before her death she recanted her testimony, stated explicitly that she'd been paid by the Ross brothers to lie about Mrs. Ross confessing murderous intent. We have no proof that note is genuine, the Ross lawyer said. We have her handwriting, we have her signature, and we have the fact that she's conveniently dead right after Ellen Porter came forward with testimony implicating the Ross brothers. Marcus's voice hardened. Awfully convenient, wouldn't you say? Are you accusing my clients of murdering Miss Hendricks? I'm saying the timing is suspicious, and I'm saying Marshal Pike should investigate her death as thoroughly as he investigated Robert Ross's. Pike stood. Already doing that, Your Honor. Found traces of arsenic in Miss Hendricks's home. Same arsenic Thomas Ross uses for pest control on his property. Easy to prove if we test his supply against what was found in her body. Thomas shot to his feet again. You can't possibly. Sit down. The judge's voice could have frozen fire. One more outburst and you'll be in contempt. Marshal, you're saying Thomas Ross had access to the poison that killed Miss Hendricks? Yes, sir, and a clear motive to silence her if she was planning to recant. The judge turned to Marcus. You mentioned new evidence. I assume you're referring to the exhumation. Yes, Your Honor. Robert Ross's body was examined yesterday by Dr. Samuel Thornton, a forensic specialist brought in from the territorial capital. His findings are conclusive. Marcus held up the report. Robert Ross did not simply fall down the stairs. He was pushed. Dr. Thornton found significant bruising on the upper back and shoulders consistent with being shoved from behind with considerable force. Bruising that would not be present if the fall were accidental. Mrs. Ross was in front of her husband at the top of the stairs, Pike added. She couldn't have pushed him from behind, but someone else could have. Someone who came in through the back entrance Thomas Ross had a key to. The judge looked at Thomas. Do you have a key to your brother's home? Yes, for emergencies. Did you use it the night your brother died? No, I was at home. Can anyone verify that? Thomas hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but Clementine saw it. Everyone saw it. My wife, Thomas said. She can verify it. We'll need to speak with her, Pike said, along with anyone else who might have seen you that night. The judge leaned back, fingers steepled. Mr. Webb, do you have anything else? Just this, Your Honor. Marcus gestured to Clementine. Mrs. Ross has cooperated fully with this investigation. She's submitted to questioning provided evidence and brought forward witnesses at great personal risk. She's done everything an innocent woman would do. Meanwhile, the Ross brothers have obstructed, threatened, and quite possibly murdered a witness to keep her silent. The evidence speaks for itself. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge looked from Marcus to the Ross brothers to Clementine. His face gave away nothing. I'll hear from Mrs. Ross, he said finally. Stand up, ma'am. Clementine's legs barely held her as she stood. Royce rose with her hand on her elbow. Mrs. Ross, did you kill your husband? No, sir. Did you wish him dead? She swallowed hard. Yes, sir. Sometimes, when he was drunk and violent and I thought I couldn't survive another day. But wishing isn't the same as doing. And when he fell when I saw him at the bottom of those stairs, her voice broke. I didn't feel relief. I felt horror and guilt, because maybe if I'd tried harder, loved him better, been stronger. Stop. The judge's voice gentled. You're not on trial for being an imperfect wife, Mrs. Ross. You're here because the Ross brothers claim you murdered their brother. Based on the evidence presented, I find their claim not only unsubstantiated, but deliberately false. Thomas exploded. You can't. I can, and I will. Marshal Pike arrest Thomas and William Ross for suspicion of murder in the death of Robert Ross. Also for suspicion of murder in the death of Sarah Hendricks. Also for conspiracy to commit perjury and obstruction of justice. Your Honor, this is outrageous, the Ross lawyer shouted. What's outrageous is 3 men murdering their brother for money and trying to pin it on his widow. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. Mrs. Ross, you're free to go. All charges dismissed with prejudice. And Mr. Ross, all 3 of you, if I find out you've gone anywhere near Mrs. Ross or Mrs. Porter or their families, I'll throw you in a hole so deep they'll need a rope to find your bones. Are we clear? Pike moved toward the Ross brothers' hand on his gun. Thomas looked at Clementine with pure hatred. This isn't over, he said. Yes, the judge said coldly. It is. Take them away, Marshal. Pike and his deputies surrounded the Ross brothers. William went quietly, head down. James looked confused, like he didn't quite understand what was happening. But Thomas fought, struggling against the deputies' grip, shouting about corruption and false witnesses and family loyalty. Clementine watched them dragged from the courtroom and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just exhaustion so deep it went to her bones. Then Royce's arms were around her, holding her so tight she could barely breathe, and she started to cry. Great wrenching sobs that tore through her chest and made her shake. It's over, Royce murmured into her hair. It's done. You're safe. I know. But she couldn't stop crying. Marcus appeared beside them. Mrs. Ross, you should know the judge is also ordering a full investigation into the property transfer. If it's determined the will was forged or signed under duress, the land reverts to you. She pulled back from Royce, wiped her eyes. I don't want it. I don't want any of it. You might not have a choice. It's yours by right. Then I'll sell it. Give the money to Ellen. She's the one who saved me. Ellen pushed through the crowd, daughters in tow, tears streaming down her face. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. You gave up everything to tell the truth. Let me give you something in return. Ellen hugged her hard. Thank you. God, thank you. Pike returned, hat in hand. Mrs. Ross, I owe you an apology. I came here believing you were guilty. I was wrong. You were doing your job. Maybe. But I should have dug deeper from the start. Should have questioned the Ross brothers' story more carefully. If I had, maybe Sarah Hendricks would still be alive. That's not on you, Marcus said. That's on Thomas Ross, and he'll pay for it. Damn right he will. Pike settled his hat back on his head. I'll make sure of it. They left the courthouse through the front entrance, this time through the crowd that had watched justice happen. Some people called out congratulations. Others turned away embarrassed or ashamed. Clementine ignored them all. Outside, the sun was high and bright. It felt like a different world than the one she'd entered this morning. What now? She asked Royce. Now we go home. Your home. Our home. If you still want it. She looked at him. This man who'd fought for her, believed in her, stood beside her when everyone else had turned away. I want it. I want you. I want all of it. He kissed her right there in front of the courthouse, in front of the crowd, in front of God and everyone. And Clementine kissed him back, not caring who saw, not caring what anyone thought. When they broke apart, both grinning, Ellen cleared her throat. Hate to interrupt, but my girls are starving and I think we could all use a proper meal. Restaurant, Royce suggested. Restaurant, Marcus agreed. My treat. We're celebrating. They went to the town's only decent restaurant, a place with checkered tablecloths and food that actually tasted like something. They ordered too much, ate too quickly, laughed too loud. Ellen's daughters slowly relaxed, started smiling, started acting like children again instead of terrified refugees. Halfway through the meal, Clementine excused herself. Needed air, needed a moment to process everything that had happened. She stepped outside, leaned against the restaurant's wall, and closed her eyes. Quite a morning. Her eyes snapped open. A woman stood nearby, 50-ish, well-dressed, with kind eyes and a careful smile. "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" "No, but I know you. Or rather, I know of you. I'm Catherine Ross, James's wife." Clementine stiffened. "If you're here to—" "I'm here to apologize." Catherine moved closer. "James didn't know what Thomas and William had done, didn't know they'd killed Robert. He's a weak man, my husband, but he's not a murderer. He just—" She stopped. "He just followed his brothers like he always has. Never questioned. Never thought for himself. He helped them cover it up. I know, and he'll pay for that. But I wanted you to know not all of us believed you were guilty. Some of us knew Thomas was lying. We just didn't have the courage to say it out loud." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know. And because—" Catherine's voice dropped. "Because Robert came to see me. 2 weeks before he died. He told me he was going to change. Going to stop drinking, fix his marriage, become the man he was supposed to be. He asked me to pray for him. I did. And then Thomas killed him for trying to be better." Tears blurred Clementine's vision. He really was trying. He was. And I think he would have made it if Thomas had let him. Your husband had goodness in him, Mrs. Ross. At the end, he was trying to find it again." "Thank you for telling me." Catherine nodded. "I won't bother you again. Just wanted you to know Robert loved you. In his own broken way, he loved you. And he died trying to prove it." She walked away, leaving Clementine alone with tears and memories and a grief she hadn't let herself feel until now. She cried for Robert, for the man he'd been, for the man he'd tried to become, for all the years they'd lost to alcohol and anger and fear. And then she wiped her eyes, straightened her spine, and went back inside to the people who'd fought for her, to the man who'd stood beside her, to the future she was finally free to build. They returned to the ranch near sunset. Ellen and her daughters came too. They'd be staying until they could figure out where to go, what to do next. Royce had already told Ellen she could stay as long as she needed, that they'd rebuild together. That night, after Ellen's daughters were asleep and Ellen herself had retired to her room, Clementine and Royce sat on the porch watching stars appear. "I keep waiting to feel different," Clementine said. "Like there should be some big moment where everything changes. But I just feel tired, and sad, and relieved, and grateful, and about 100 other things I don't have names for." "That sounds about right." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "Catherine Ross came to see me, James's wife. She said Robert really was trying to change, that he'd asked her to pray for him." "You believe her?" "I do. And I think—" She took a breath. "I think I need to forgive him. Not for his sake, for mine. I need to let go of all the anger and hurt and just let it go. Otherwise, it'll poison everything good I'm trying to build." "That's a tall order." "I know, but I'm going to try. Because Thomas killed Robert for trying to be better. I won't let Thomas kill me too by keeping me trapped in bitterness." Royce turned to look at her. "You're the strongest person I've ever met." "I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn." "Same thing sometimes." She almost smiled, then gathering her courage. "You asked me to marry you. Did you mean it? Every word. Then let's do it, soon. Not some big ceremony, just us and Ellen and her girls and Marcus if he wants to come. Something simple and honest and true." "When?" "This weekend. I don't want to wait. Don't want to give the universe time to take this away from me." He kissed her forehead. "This weekend it is." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the night deepen. Tomorrow, they'd start rebuilding. Tomorrow, they'd replant the garden, repair the fence, make plans for the future. Tomorrow, Ellen would start figuring out her next steps, and Marcus would continue building the case against the Ross brothers, and Pike would investigate Sarah's death. But tonight, they just sat together. Two broken people who'd found each other. Two survivors who'd fought for the truth and won. "I never thanked you," Clementine said quietly. "For what? For seeing me. For not looking at me like I was cargo, or a burden or a murderer. For just seeing me. I'll always see you. Can't help it." He squeezed her hand. "You walked off that wagon looking like you'd burn the world down before you let it break you. How could I not see that?" "I wasn't sure I could burn the world down, but I think maybe I could have if I'd had to." "Good thing you didn't have to. World's better off not burned." She laughed, actually laughed, and it felt like the first real laugh she'd had in years. Inside, a lamp flickered to life. Ellen probably checking on her girls, making sure they were safe and warm and loved. "She's going to be okay," Royce said. "Ellen, she's tough. Tougher than she knows. So are her daughters. They've got their mother's spine." "Speaking of," Royce hesitated. "Do you want children? Eventually?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know. Robert and I tried for years and it never happened. I always assumed it was me. Or it was him, drinking like he did." "Maybe." She thought about it. "I think I'd like to try. Not right away, but someday. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we'll build a life anyway." "Sounds good to me." They went inside, eventually helped Ellen bank the fire and check the locks, said goodnight, went to their separate rooms because they'd decided to wait just a few more days until the wedding. Do things right, build something that would last. But before Clementine closed her door, Royce caught her hand. "I love you," he said. "Simple, direct, true. Just wanted you to know, in case I don't get another chance to say it before we make it official." Her throat tightened. "I love you too. More than I thought I could love anyone. More than I knew how to." "Then we're even." He kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet and full of promise. And then he was gone, leaving her alone with joy so fierce it hurt. She got ready for bed, lay down in the narrow bed that had been her refuge these past weeks, and thought about the future. About the wedding this weekend. About the garden they'd plant together. About the life they'd build on truth and courage and love that refused to break. Outside her window, the wind picked up. Leaves rustled. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. But inside this house, inside this room, Clementine Ross finally felt safe. Finally felt home. Finally felt like the woman she was meant to be, not the woman her father wanted, or Robert needed, or Thomas tried to destroy. Just herself. Whole and free and loved. She closed her eyes and slept peacefully for the first time in years, knowing that when she woke, she'd still be here. Still be safe. Still be building something real with a man who saw her for exactly who she was and loved her anyway. The nightmare was over. The dream was just beginning. Morning came with birdsong and the smell of fresh coffee. Clementine woke slowly, luxuriously, without the knot of fear in her stomach that had greeted her every morning for months. She lay there listening to the sounds of the house, waking up Ellen's quiet footsteps, her daughter's muffled voices, Royce moving around downstairs. She got up dressed in a simple work dress and braided her hair. In the mirror, her face looked different. Lighter somehow. Like a weight had lifted that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. When she came downstairs, Ellen was already making breakfast while her daughter set the table. Royce was outside bringing in wood for the stove. It felt domestic, normal, like a real family instead of a collection of refugees. "Morning," Ellen said, glancing over with a smile. "Sleep well." "Better than I have in years." "Good, you deserved it." Ellen cracked eggs into a pan. "Royce told me you're getting married this weekend." If you don't mind staying a bit longer, we'd like you to be there. Mind, I'd be honored. Ellen's eyes misted. You two are good together. Really good. Like you were always meant to find each other. Maybe we were. Strange how the worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best thing. That's life, though, isn't it? All twisted up and backwards until you can't tell the blessing from the curse, until it's over. The girls came in from setting the table. Mary, the older one, and Sarah, named for a grandmother long gone. They'd been shy yesterday, traumatized by the upheaval, but this morning they seemed more settled. Mrs. Ross, Mary asked hesitantly, Mama said you're planting a garden. Could we help? I'd like that very much, and please call me Clementine. That's a pretty name, little Sarah said. Like the song. My mother liked that song, named me after it even though my father wanted something more traditional. Royce came in with an armload of wood, saw them all gathered in the kitchen, and stopped. This what it's going to be like, house full of women. Scared, Clementine teased. Terrified, outnumbered 4-1. Good, keeps you humble. He grinned, set the wood down, and came to kiss her temple. Easy, natural, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. They ate breakfast together, talking about small things, what to plant in the garden, whether to fix the barn roof before winter, how Ellen's daughters liked their new school in town. Normal conversation, normal life. It felt almost surreal after everything they'd been through. After breakfast, Royce and Clementine went outside to assess the garden plot. The storm had washed most of it away, but the soil was still workable. They'd need to rebuild the beds, reinforce the borders, replant everything. Big job, Royce said. Good. I like big jobs. Keeps my hands busy and my mind quiet. They worked side by side for hours, digging and hauling and shaping the earth. Ellen's daughters came out to help, eager and clumsy but earnest. Ellen brought water and sandwiches at noon. They ate sitting in the dirt, sweaty and tired and content. You know what I keep thinking about? Clementine said, leaning back on her hands. Robert. Not the drunk, angry version. The man he was before. The man he tried to be at the end. I keep thinking he'd be glad I ended up here. That something good came from all that pain. You think he loved you? Royce asked. Really loved you? In his way. Broken and wrong sometimes, but yes. I think he did. She looked at Royce. And I think he'd want me to be happy. To build something real with someone who deserves me. I don't know if I deserve you. Well, you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed her, then dirt on both their faces, sweat in their hair, the sun beating down, and Ellen's daughters giggling behind their hands. It was perfect. That afternoon, Marcus rode out with news. The Ross brothers had been formally charged, Thomas and William, with murder in both Robert's and Sarah's deaths. James with conspiracy and obstruction. They'd be held without bail until trial. Thomas is claiming innocence, Marcus said, standing in the kitchen with a glass of water. Says Ellen's lying, says we fabricated evidence, says this is all a conspiracy to steal his family's land. Anyone believing him? Royce asked. Not many. The evidence is too strong. Plus Pike found arsenic at Thomas's property that matches what killed Sarah. And we found a witness, a farmhand, who saw Thomas and William leaving Robert's property the night he died. Said they paid him to keep quiet. Clementine's hands tightened on her coffee cup. So it's really over. They're really going to pay for what they did. Looks like it. Trial's set for next month. You'll need to testify. I'll be there. Whatever it takes to make sure they never hurt anyone else. Marcus nodded, then pulled out another set of papers. Also, the judge ruled on the property. The will was forged. Robert's signature was definitely not his. Property reverts to you as the legal widow. I told you I don't want it. Doesn't matter what you want. It's yours by law. But, he held up a hand. You can do whatever you want with it. Sell it, give it away, burn it to the ground. Your choice. Clementine looked at Ellen. I meant what I said. It's yours. You and your girls. You need a fresh start, here it is. I can't accept that. It's too much. It's payment for saving my life, for risking everything to tell the truth. Please, let me do this one good thing." Ellen's eyes filled. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." "Yes. God, yes. Thank you." Marcus made notes. "I'll draw up the paperwork. Should be finalized within a few weeks. Congratulations, Mrs. Porter. You're a landowner." After Marcus left, Ellen sat at the table with her head in her hands, crying. Not sad crying. Overwhelmed crying. The kind that comes when your whole life changes in an instant. "We'll have a home," she whispered. "A real home. My girls will have land. A future. I can't—" She looked up at Clementine. "How can I ever repay you? You already did. You gave me my life back. Now I'm giving you yours." The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. They cleaned the house top to bottom, baked bread and pies, picked wildflowers and put them in jars. Royce rode to town and came back with a dress for Clementine, simple white cotton with blue embroidery at the collar. She cried when she saw it. "You didn't have to do this." "I know. Wanted to." She tried it on. It fit perfectly. Ellen helped her with her hair the morning of the wedding, braided and pinned with wildflowers woven through. Her daughters brought her a bouquet they'd picked themselves, stems clutched in sticky hands. "You look like a princess," Sarah said in awe. "I feel like one." Royce was waiting on the porch, dressed in his best shirt and pants, hair combed back, beard trimmed. When he saw her, his face did something she'd never seen before. It opened completely. All walls down, just raw emotion shining through. "You're beautiful," he said, voice rough. "You're not so bad yourself." Marcus arrived with the preacher, an old man who'd married half the territory and buried the other half. They stood in the front yard, under an oak tree, the four of them, Clementine and Royce Ellen, and Marcus as witnesses, the girls sitting on the porch steps, watching with rapt attention. The ceremony was short. Traditional vows. Simple promises. Royce's hands shook when he slid the ring on her finger, a plain gold band he'd had made in town, engraved with her name and the date. "I promise to stand beside you," he said, deviating from the script. "Not in front of you, not behind you. Beside you, always." "I promise the same," she said. "And I promise to build something real with you. Something that lasts." "Then I pronounce you husband and wife," the preacher said. "Kiss your bride's son." Royce kissed her while Ellen cried happy tears, and Marcus clapped and the girls cheered. The sun broke through the clouds right then, like even the weather approved. They had a small celebration, food and music and dancing in the yard. Marcus played fiddle surprisingly well. Ellen taught the girls to dance. Royce spun Clementine around until she was dizzy and laughing. "Happy?" he asked, holding her close. "Happier than I ever thought I could be." "Good. That's good." That night, after everyone else had gone to bed, they finally had their wedding night. Clementine had been nervous, worried that her memories of Robert, of violence and pain, would intrude. But Royce was patient, gentle. He took his time, made sure she felt safe, asked permission for everything. "You okay?" he whispered in the darkness. "Yes. Better than okay." "You sure? We can stop if—" "I don't want to stop. I want this. Want you." And so they built something new together. Something based on trust and respect and love. Something that erased the old hurts and replaced them with healing. Afterward, lying tangled together in the narrow bed, Clementine felt tears on her cheeks. "What's wrong?" Royce asked immediately. "Nothing. Everything's right. That's why I'm crying." He pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. "I love you." "I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes." "Good scared or bad scared?" "Good scared. The kind that means it matters. That means I have something to lose." "You're not going to lose me. I'm not going anywhere." She believed him. and that belief that trust felt like a gift she'd never expected to receive. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm. They worked the land together, replanting the garden, repairing fences, preparing for winter. Ellen and her daughters became permanent fixtures, their laughter filling the house. Marcus visited regularly with updates on the trial. Pike stopped by once to check on everyone and stayed for dinner. Life felt normal, real, like they'd all found the place they were meant to be. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after the wedding, Clementine was working in the garden when she heard horses. Multiple horses. Her heart jumped, old fear hard to shake. But it was Pike along with 2 other men she didn't recognize. Royce came out of the barn, hand on his gun. "Marshal, something wrong?" "No, just bringing news." Pike dismounted. "Trial's over. Thomas and William were convicted on all charges. They'll hang next month." Clementine's knees went weak. She sat down hard on the ground. "James," Royce asked. "Got 20 years. Could have been worse, but he cooperated, testified against his brothers. Judge took that into account." "And Catherine, James's wife?" "Divorced him. Took her daughters and moved back east. Can't say I blame her." Clementine looked up at the sky, at the clouds drifting past, at the sun shining down. It was really over. Thomas would pay for what he'd done. Robert would have justice. "You all right, Mrs. Barrett?" Pike asked. Mrs. Barrett. Her new name, her new life. "I'm all right. Thank you, Marshal, for everything. Just doing my job. Though I'll admit I'm glad it worked out this way." He tipped his hat. "You folks have a good life. You've earned it." He rode away with his men, leaving silence behind. Royce helped Clementine to her feet, held her, while she processed what she'd heard. Thomas and William would hang, die the same way Royce's brother had died. Justice, symmetry, closure. "How do you feel?" Royce asked. "I don't know. Relieved, sad, angry that it came to this. Grateful it's finally over." She looked at him. "Mostly I feel free, like I can finally stop looking over my shoulder." "You are free. We both are." They stood there in the garden they'd built together, surrounded by plants just beginning to grow, and Clementine thought about everything that had led to this moment. The pain, the loss, the fear, but also the courage, the truth, the love. "Thank you," she said. "For what? For seeing me, for fighting for me, for loving me when I didn't think I deserved to be loved. You deserved it all along. Just took finding the right person to show you." She kissed him, then there in the dirt with sun on their faces, and the future spreading out before them like an open road. That night, Ellen announced she'd be leaving in the morning. Not forever, just to go back to Missouri, settle her affairs, sell what needed selling, say goodbye to what needed leaving behind. She'd be back in 2 weeks to claim her land and start her new life. "You'll be okay while I'm gone?" she asked Clementine. "I'll be fine. Better than fine. The girls want to stay here if that's all right. They've gotten attached to you both. And to this place." "Of course they can stay. They're family now." Ellen hugged her tight. "You gave me more than land, Clementine. You gave me hope. Gave me the courage to tell the truth. Gave my daughters a future. I'll never forget that. You gave me my life. I think we're even." Early the next morning, Ellen rode out on her mare saddlebags, packed determination in every line of her body. She'd be fine. Clementine knew it. Women like Ellen, women who'd survived and fought and refused to break, they always found a way. Life settled into a new normal. Clementine and Royce worked the land, taught Ellen's daughters to garden and cook and handle themselves. Mary turned out to have a gift for growing things. Sarah had her mother's sharp eyes and sharper tongue. They fit into the household like they'd always been there. One evening, about a month after Ellen left, Clementine realized she'd missed her monthly bleeding. She didn't say anything at first, didn't want to get Royce's hopes up if she was wrong. But when she missed the second month, she knew. She told him while they were sitting on the porch at sunset, watching the sky turn pink and gold. "I'm pregnant." He went very still. You're sure? As sure as I can be without seeing a doctor. How do you feel about it? She thought about it, really thought. Scared, happy, grateful, terrified. She looked at him. How do you feel? All of those things, plus about 10 others I don't have names for. He took her hand. But mostly I feel lucky. Lucky to build a family with you. Lucky to have a second chance at getting life right. Me too. They sat in silence, holding hands, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote called. Ellen's daughters laughed inside the house. The garden grew quietly in the darkness. Life went on. Beautiful and messy and real. Ellen came back 2 weeks later with 3 wagon loads of possessions and a smile wider than Montana. She moved into the house in Missouri, the house that had been Robert's that was now hers, and immediately started making plans. She'd turn it into a boarding house, give other women fleeing bad situations a place to stay, a refuge. Fitting, don't you think? She said when she told Clementine about it. The house that nearly destroyed you becomes a place that saves others. More than fitting, perfect. The months passed. Clementine's belly grew. Royce became absurdly protective, hovering and fussing until she threatened to ban him from the house. Ellen's daughters bloomed in the Montana air, growing taller and stronger and more confident. Ellen herself seemed 10 years younger, the weight of fear finally lifted. Winter came and went. Spring arrived with rain and new growth. And on a warm April morning, with Ellen and Royce and the girls all waiting anxiously outside the bedroom door, Clementine gave birth to a daughter. They named her Grace, for the grace they'd all been given, the second chance, the unexpected gift. Royce held his daughter with tears streaming down his face. She's perfect. She is. Clementine was exhausted, sweaty in pain, and happier than she'd ever been. Our perfect girl. Ellen came in with fresh water and clean linens, took one look at the scene and started crying too. I wish Robert could see this. See what his death, horrible as it was, led to. All this life. All this love. Maybe he can, Clementine said softly. Maybe he knows. And maybe he's glad. She liked to think he was. Liked to think Robert, wherever he was, could see that his attempt to do the right thing at the end, his plan to give her the land, to get sober, to be better, hadn't been in vain. That it had set in motion everything that came after. The trial happened in May. Clementine testified, told the jury everything she knew. Faced Thomas across the courtroom, and didn't flinch when he glared at her with pure hatred. She told the truth clearly, calmly, without drama or embellishment. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the judge sentenced Thomas and William to hang, Thomas screamed that it was all lies, all conspiracy, that he'd been framed. No one believed him. The evidence was too strong. The witnesses too credible. The truth too obvious. Justice delayed, but not denied. Clementine didn't attend the hanging. Didn't want that image in her head. But Royce felt like he owed it to his brother to witness another kind of justice done. He came home quiet and thoughtful. How was it? She asked. Final. That's the best word. It's done. Over. They can't hurt anyone else ever again. Good. He looked at her, holding Grace, at Ellen's daughters playing in the yard, at the life they'd built from ashes and pain. Your family tried to destroy you. Sent you here like garbage they wanted to forget. But you became the best thing that ever happened to all of us. Not just me. All of us together. That's what made it work. Yeah. But you started it. You stepped off that wagon looking like you'd fight God himself if you had to. That's what changed everything. She thought back to that day just over a year ago now. Thought about the woman she'd been then. Broken. Angry, terrified, but also determined, refusing to disappear just because people wanted her gone. I think I was always meant to find you, she said. Maybe not this way, not through all this pain, but somehow, somewhere. We were always meant to build something together. I believe that. Me too. Years passed. Grace grew. Ellen's boarding house thrived. Mary married a good man and started her own farm. Sarah became a teacher. Marcus retired and moved closer to help with the grandchildren that kept arriving. Pike became sheriff, spent his last years making sure justice prevailed for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Clementine and Royce grew old together, worked the land, raised their daughter, built a life that would have seemed impossible that day she stepped off the wagon. On their 25th wedding anniversary, sitting on that same porch where they'd first really talked, Royce said, "You ever regret it, staying here marrying me? Not for a single second, you never. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though your family basically sold me to you like livestock. Especially because of that. They thought they were punishing you. Turns out they gave me a gift I never knew I needed." She leaned her head on his shoulder, gray hair mixing with his bodies worn from years of work, but spirits strong. Some treasures aren't found. They're sent to those strong enough to recognize them. That's something Ellen said. Something I figured out on my own. Grace came out then 24, now pregnant with her first child, glowing with that special light, expectant mothers carry. "Dinner's ready. You two coming?" "In a minute," Clementine said. "Just enjoying the sunset." Grace smiled and went back inside, and Clementine thought about everything they'd survived to get here. The pain, the fear, the battles fought and won, the justice claimed, the love built from ruins. "You know what the best part is?" Royce said. "What? That we get to do this every day, wake up beside each other, work together, build together, love together. That's the real victory. Not beating Thomas, not getting justice, just this. Every ordinary day." "You're right. This is the treasure. Right here." The sun sank lower. Stars began appearing. Inside the house, family gathered around the table. Outside the garden they'd planted together 25 years ago still grew and flourished. Clementine Ross Barrett, widow, exile, survivor, fighter, wife, mother. Friend closed her eyes and felt the kind of peace that only comes from knowing you've lived exactly the life you were meant to live. Not the easy life, not the safe life, but the true life. The one where love wins and justice prevails and broken people find each other and build something that lasts. She'd been sent as a punishment, but became a blessing. They'd tried to erase her, but she'd written herself into history. They'd wanted her to disappear, but she'd created a legacy that would outlive them all. And in the end, surrounded by the family she'd built and the love she'd earned, Clementine Barrett knew one thing with absolute certainty: she'd won. Not by destroying her enemies, not by becoming bitter or hard or cruel, but by refusing to let them define her. By choosing love over hate. By building when others tried to burn. By becoming exactly who she was always meant to be. The woman they sent to disappear became the light that guided others home. The burden they wanted gone became the foundation of something beautiful. The widow they tried to destroy became the hero of her own story. And that, Clementine thought as Royce squeezed her hand and Grace called them in for dinner, was the sweetest victory of all.